people are pushing for agentic commerce. So let's jump into agentic commerce and let's solve agentic commerce. And then what happens is that different people are seeing like different parts of the problem. I don't know if you ever saw that image of the elephant where there's like different people touching different parts, and then each one says like it's a different animal. I think that we are in that phase in agentic commerce. Most of the companies that I have seen, they are highly specialized on one step.
Welcome to the Retailgentic podcast, where we explore the intersection of retail, e-commerce, and AI agents, which we call Retailgentic. Our mission is simple. We are shining a bright light on the new agentic AI shopping megatrend, which will disrupt the trillion-dollar digital retail market. The stakes are high. Google, OpenAI, Microsoft, Perplexity, Amazon, Apple, Meta, and Anthropic are all fighting to be the consumer AI shopping agent winner. There are going to be some tough decisions for online brands and retailers to make. What happens to checkout? How should payments work? Should you continue to invest in retail media networks? What does the world look like when over half of your traffic is not from humans, but from AI agents? These existential questions are the tip of the iceberg. On this podcast, we're talking to industry experts, analysts, and influencers to get answers to these questions, identify trends, and best practices. This is Retailgentic, your podcast partner in navigating our AI shopping agent future. And now here's your host, Scott Wingo.
Welcome to the Retailgentic podcast. On today's episode, our guest is Jordi Montes, CEO and co-founder of SimpleCheckout.ai. In this discussion, we cover Jordi's background and journey to the launch of SimpleCheckout. He started about 3 years ago with this crazy idea and a vision that agents would need to process payments between each other. Along the way, he developed something called the L402 standard and finally landed on an idea for a unified checkout and payment framework for agents that is now known as SimpleCheckout and just recently launched. As you know, I think this agentic payment and checkout space is very interesting. We actually had the launch of the ChatGPT instant checkout here today. So a lot going on in this space. I learned a ton from the conversation with Jordi, and I hope you do too.
Jordi Montes, welcome to Retailgentic.
Hi, Scott. Really happy to be here.
Yeah, I discovered you, I guess I would say. I can't remember if I reached out to you or you reached out to me, but we chatted a while ago and you're like, I have some big things percolating. I can't come on now, but when I do have something to say, I'll come on, and here we are.
Yeah, I promise. Now we deliver.
Cool. So let's start with a little background. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself. What's the Jordi story?
Yeah, I started as a software engineer and mathematician. Really quickly, went into abstract thinking, things like that. Saw that I could play support there, but at coding, I was kind of good. So I was like, okay, I think that my way to contribute to the world is going to be through coding instead of theorems. And then I decided to join some startups. I started with travel industry, business travel at a company called TravelPerk. Spent there some days, and then later on I spent some time working on Bitcoin on something called the Lightning Network. Then about a couple of years ago, or almost 2.5 now, I played with ChatGPT 3.5 and ChatGPT 4 when it came out, and I was truly impressed. So for years, my friends from university had been telling me about machine learning. They had me showing me stuff. I was not impressed. I was like, okay, it can tell me if it's a cat or a cookie. It's okay. I don't find that crazy. And then out of the blue, computers were doing things that I could not have thought that computers would be able to do in our lifetime. So for me, it was really okay, so now we are in sci-fi timeline. So I projected okay, so if they are able to do this today, what do I believe that they will be able to do later? And for me, it was pretty clear. At that time, I was working on something called the Lightning Network, that it's a payment system. And it was really clear for me, okay, so this is how I'm going to interact with the computer from now on. It's I'm not going to be clicking around all the time. I'm going to state what I want. And if it's possible, the computer is going to go and do it. The friend that was the happiest about was the one that I always ask about Excel. Usually, I know that Excel can do stuff. I don't know how to do it myself. So I have to ask someone else, like, excuse me, can you take these two columns and do this nice plot there? And I was like, this is going to be the machine. And in the same way that I ask it on Excel, I'm going to be able to ask it on things that cost money. Most of the time, we are interacting with third-party services, and that involves a payment. And that was my expertise. So I was like, okay, let's go. And
you've done travel, you've done online travel. You're kind of new to e-commerce per se, but you've been kind of adjacent. You've done some payments, you've done a little travel
industry, and then like a payment network. So I was like fairly familiar on what involves payments and things like that. And unfortunately, I have to say, like, this was more than 2.5 years ago. Worst entrepreneur ever. Like, I quit. I started my company, started like talking with friends at OpenAI or Anthropic. I was like, hey, do you know when an AI needs to spend money? Sometimes, like when it interacts with third-party services, sometimes it needs to spend money. We solve that problem for you. And most of the people's reaction was like, what the hell are you talking about? This is a chat.
I don't think you're the worst entrepreneur ever. So I've started companies and not really seen anything come to fruition for like 6 years. So don't worry, you got time.
Yeah, like
better to be early than late.
It was pretty clear that it was a marathon, and I am pretty obsessed with the problem. So I am like, I want to be the person that like builds and solves for this, because I think that it really will bring like a new era of commerce on the internet. So what we did this couple of years was like, okay, let's go in exploratory mode. Let's make sure that we model and map how things can evolve, for when they start developing, we already have like a clear roadmap, or we can go more advanced than most of the people that just start now. And that's what we did. It was extremely funny for me because we work on multiple things, all involving payments. But payments usually are at the latest of a flow of steps, which was incredibly funny because we had to develop those steps to show the payment.
What are some examples of things in front of payment that you had to work on?
Yeah, so for example, things that we did before. Before you are able to pay for something, you need to actually go and discover what needs to be paid, how it needs to be paid, and then pay for it. So about 1.5 years ago, we were working on AIs that are able to discover services, integrate, pay, and use. When I was showing this to people, they were like, whoa, your AI is able to discover a service? Like, this was before MCP or anything like that. That is how people do it nowadays. So they were like, wow, this is amazing. Your AI is able to discover and integrate with services? It's like, yeah, and it pays and usage. And they're like, well, we don't care about the payment. Sell us the technology for discovering and integrating. And I was like, no, that's not a business. That's going to be a big protocol. One day, Google or a big lab is going to come and it's going to say, this is how we do it. And effectively, like months later, MCP happened. And then people were like, okay, yeah, so this is where you can connect the payment layer. Happened multiple times. Another one was with authorization and authentication. So something that is important is like, well, most of the time you need to know who is paying. And also, if that request has the authority of trigger a payment or not. That with machines is really tricky because they can be fooled. You want to make sure that, like every time that a payment is done was authorized or comes from a budget that it's authorized.
Imagine blockchain, understanding blockchain has a lot of rails around these problems, right? There's, and it was the first thing to solve the, what is it? There's a name for this problem. Is it the double payment problem?
Double spending problem.
The double spending problem. Yeah, I was on the wrong side of it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's more about like, well, what payment network we use. So, like we need to be able to transfer value on some ledger. It can be a public one, like in the case of blockchain, or it can be a closed one like Visa. This was more about like the authorization of, for example, when you take my credit card and click pay, they are going to ask you like, okay, what's the PIN? Which means that if you don't have the PIN, you're not able to trigger the payment. And again, what people told me is like, wow, this is amazing. So you have an authorization system for agents. We had things like we built in like delegation. It was really important for me that if I can spend $20, I can give another agent the authority to spend $10 out of my budget and things like that. They were like, wow, this is amazing. We don't care about the payment. Like, forget about the wallet. Sell us the technology for authentication and authorization. And again, this is not going to come from a small startup. I think that it's going to be, like one day Google or OpenAI, they come and say, like, guys, this is how we authenticate and authorize agents, and we need to follow.
But MCP doesn't have a lot of these features, right?
Exactly. No, MCP was the first one that was working on the layer of service discovery and integration. Didn't have authentication and authorization built in, neither payments.
Yeah, a lot of people jump to this conclusion that MCP is going to be the solution to all this stuff, but it's wildly under. It's not built for that.
Yes. And also for the people that have some age, and I think that we show that we have a lot of experience, it's really clear to see that the internet at any point, for example, in 2002, many people would have guessed, so it's going to be Java applets. Like, this is the technology, this is the future. Okay, there's this browser, but it's going to work with Flash. And if you have
Flash is the way of the future.
Yeah, of course. Like, it gives you interactivity. You can do all these crazy things. We cannot know. And, like, I see many people that don't like to say, like, well, we don't know how it can evolve. But reality is that we don't know. So MCP, it's looking good. It's the latest thing. It's going to be the one that the future develops. We don't know. We think that it has a place, but I would not be so Solomonic saying, like, okay, yeah, this is the technology that everything will run in 20 years.
Okay, so you rattled around for 2 years, and you kept building things that you didn't think would be a good product, and then where have you landed? This I have the inside story, but I know this kind of turned into Simple Checkout. Like, what I feel like we're at the end of the story. Like, how did what happened in that last mile?
With MCP about 8 months ago, people started getting like, wait a second, we need a way to pay that it's not in the browser. So until then, payments was easy. Like, it was like, well, whatever happens, it's in the browser. The user has a credit card, the payment goes. Now, for first time with MCP, it's like, wait a second, we'll have a browser here. So how do we even collect payment details? So before that, one of the things that we developed was an open standard called L402. You can go to l402.org. And
L402. Okay.
402 is an HTTP error code that many people may be familiarized, not with 402, but with other ones. For example, 404.
Oh, it's classic.
Yeah. So the people in the 90s of the HTTP committee envisioned that, well, there's going to be a way to pay over the internet. Let's put 402 to signal, sorry, before I process this request, a payment needs to be made. Visa and MasterCard were really smart there, and they just plugged credit cards into the browser and call it a day. And we ran for 35 years on that, and we are really happy with it. However, now we see that the internet is not the browser anymore. Like, there's going to be like many kinds of clients. So all of them have a common ancestor, that it's HTTP, that it's this protocol to speak over the internet. So we created a checkout flow over HTTP. That's a typical thing, like the same thing that we do on browsers, but over the wire. So an agent is able to say, like, hey, before I process this, they say that I have to pay. Here are a number of offers. Here are the different payment methods that it accepts. The payment always happens outbound, so it's payment agnostic. And then people started mixing this with MCP, because it was like a really good match. It was like this technology that we developed before, saying like, well, whatever it is that comes, we'll be able to use this piece.
That's let me pause there for 1 second. The back on the background, you don't have a California accent. Where are you from?
Originally, I am from Spain, Barcelona.
Okay, and where are you now?
Right now, I am in Vancouver, and I spend a lot of time between here and San Francisco.
Okay, got it. Okay. Did you go to school in Barcelona for computer science stuff, or did you do that in Canada? Or
no, it was in Barcelona.
Okay, cool. And then, all right. So you guys developed L402, or did you do that in partnership with someone else? That was like entirely your baby?
So before that, at Lightning Labs, we were working on a version of L402 that was for that specific payment network that was called the Lightning Network. And then it had built in a lot of stuff. It had authorization in. It was not a checkout flow, but only a payment one. And then when I left, I was like, I think that there's a really big idea here. But machines need more than just the payment. I think that all the checkout experience of how to collect payment details and how to, know who is paying, etc., needs to be done in the same way that it's in the browser. So we took that idea, like we took that name, and said, like, okay, let's make it like more abstract and be able to work with any payment system and orthogonal to authorization.
Okay, cool. So that's a relatively recent development, I imagine.
Yes, that happened about 1 year ago, and people have been using it with things like podcasts. So, podcast also has this idea of I am providing a podcast, and you want to consume it from your app, and you don't want to come to my app and make a payment. So, people are using this HTTP checkout flow to be able to sell premium content over other apps without having to do any special partnership or anything like that.
What led to Simple Checkout?
And about 6 months ago, flew back to San Francisco to show people what I was working on. I was like, okay, now people are ready to, to start building on top of this. And it worked out. Actually, like this is from the PayPal Dev Days that I won the hackathon. What I did was in 4 weeks, try to win everything. So people see you and say like, wait a second, but what are people building? Like this kind
So you went to all these hackathons and you just destroyed the competition. And you got a cool rocket statue because you're so far ahead of thinking about this stuff. Okay. That's my interpretation. All right. You're too modest. You've got like the Spanish modest guy thing going. But yeah. Okay. You came out there and crushed these guys.
No, it's the idea of, well, we have been thinking about this for a lot of time. So, like if we take advantage of our learnings, we should be able to do in 1 weekend more than people that find it for first time. I would be disappointed if that was not the case. And we already had like a good mental model of how payments may work and things like that. So that worked pretty well. And during that time was the push for Visa Agentic Commerce. So Visa, Stripe, Shopify, all of them started signaling, we want agents to pay. And what a startup cannot do, that is like, we have this technology. If you adopt it, like people then don't project because they don't listen much to a small startup. When big companies try to do it, they have enough budget to say like, well, yeah, this kind of sounds interesting. So we saw that the first agents that will start making payments is not going to be agent to agent or agent to service, but actually commerce. And then we decided to say like, well, let's apply everything we learn for payments to this use case.
So if you were pitching kind of fresh today, what's the pitch?
Yeah, we make agentic commerce simple. If you are a merchant and want to sell to agents, through us, the agents will be able to learn the right information about your company and products.
So the discoverability, kind of, a little database of things that you can buy and how to buy them.
Exactly. There are like 3 parts always. There is like the merchant, that is like the person that has the inventory and wants to sell. Then there is the application that it's exposing these products to the end user. That usually will be a different application. And I think that this is something that I was able to map thanks to how the travel industry works. If you ever saw like a framework of how the travel industry works, there is like the source, and then there's aggregators of aggregators of aggregators. And then you need different partnerships to access different inventory with different pricing. I think that we are going to move into that direction more and more, and it will happen to commerce too.
There's a 3-letter acronym for that. It's like OTE, or online travel engines. Like what? There's some 3-letter acronym they use to describe some of those networks.
Yes, like there is the OTE, OTP, I think that it's called.
Maybe it's OTP. Okay. Anyway, I agree. Yeah, graphs layered on graphs on graphs.
Yeah. And then what you have is like there are going to be companies that they want to sell inventory that they don't have. They want to plug to different networks. And of course, they will end up having their own inventory. But you want your user to find everything in your app. So even if you are not able to achieve like a special partnership with them, you still want to be able to sell that inventory. And then there is the end user. That the end user says like, well, I am in an app. It's giving me some kind of experience. I don't want to go somewhere else to purchase the stuff. And I think that that's how it's going to develop. And that's the 3 steps that we try to make.
So your customer is the agent builder, basically. So I'm building a fashion agent that's going to really focus on the fashion category. And I partner with you, and you can help pull in the merchant's inventory. So that's the merchant part. And then as the user interfaces, they do the research. They're in my app. They're finding the best outfit for the fall, and they get into the buy section. You then power the agentic checkout on that side, so they can focus on this awesome buyer experience. They don't have to worry about inventory acquisition and buying and
Unify
the checkout
card
process
and actually processing the payment.
Okay,
exactly.
Gotcha. Yeah. And are you specifically in the physical product goods, or given your travel background, I'm sure that if I was building an awesome vacation planner or something like that, resort finder, that's something you could help with as well? Or do you do like B2B stuff? Like where do you kind of see what you will do and won't do?
We are going to focus on retail and for end consumers, so not B2B, so physical products, and then a focus to retail, because we are starting with the developers today. We are empowering them to power these experiences, but our end target is to be able to serve the end consumer. So what we believe is that people are going to need something to manage their agents who are spending on their behalf. So they're going to be able to say like, well, I want this agent to be able to go to my Zara account and make a payment. Or, like I want, so this it's needed. But the way to arrive, like the go-to-market strategy, is to start serving today the first one that needs agentic checkouts, that are these developers that are doing it on behalf of the user. But we want to make it more and more easier for those developers to even get information about their end user. So what we would like is that by the end, like the end consumer has an app installed with us, something similar to Klarna, where they say like, okay, yes, this is where agentic commerce happens. And then every time that they want to go to another application that wants to spend from their wallets, they are able to connect it. So something similar to what Plate did to banks. And then the full fintech industry took off thanks to that. We think that it's something it's needed like that for agentic commerce too.
So there'll be a little consumer piece there down the road where kind of like the Shop app is another example of this, where I know who you are and you're in the picture, and I trust you to store my payment credentials, and then show me the family of agents that have been built on your system because I want to stay in your ecosystem.
Exactly. So right now we have the tooling for the app developer to collect the credit card details of the end user, and then to trigger a checkout with those credit details, with credit card details in a compliant way, like PCI compliant. But we think that even that, it's too much. Like that's the go-to-market today. But the idea is that the user should be able to just connect an account from us and say like, okay, developer, now you have access to what kinds of preferences this consumer wants, what payment methods it has. Like you shouldn't even care. You just say like, this consumer needs to buy this. And if the consumer already said like, I want to pay with credit card or with crypto, it should happen behind the scenes. Like the app developer should not have to deal with this complexity. They have to deal today, but we are going to try to make it easier in the future for them.
I'm going to ask some harder questions, and feel free to pass if you feel uncomfortable. So, so let's say, and I think I know the answer to this, so I just want to make sure it helps me understand what you're doing and not doing. So Visa, MasterCard, nothing from Amex yet, and PayPal have all announced a variety of things, and so has Stripe. It seems like if I'm building an agent, instead of working with all of those individually, is it true I can work with you and basically get a superset of those things and not have to manage them all and is that part of your value proposition?
Exactly. I think that the world of payment is going to be more fragmented than ever. And I don't want all the developers to have to deal with this.
Yeah, because eventually, Apple Pay will do something, and then, there's Google Pay, and there's there's like a bunch of these other things. Amex will eventually do something. Discover Card will do something, and an agent could have to work with all those things independently, or you take care of all that mess, so they can again focus on whatever the value prop they're building, which is a better shopping experience for fashion or travel or down the road. I know you don't do it now, but B2B or whatever. Okay. And then, you've seen our podcast. You saw we had Nacuda on, and then there's another company, PayOS, kind of poking around, kind of similar. Do you have a mental map are you guys like all going for the same thing, or is there a little bit of a different mental map that you've kind of created in your head for how we can, and it's going to be so big, I think you can all three survive, right? So that's, I'll say that. I don't think there's a winner take all in this, but there's also, I feel like I may lack a mental map for how you guys are already starting to be different. I think there's probably more differences that I'm able to process at this point.
Yeah. So everyone saw, well, people are pushing for agentic commerce. So let's jump into agentic commerce and let's solve agentic commerce. And then what happens is that different people are seeing like different parts of the problem. I don't know if you ever saw that image of the elephant where there's like different people touching different parts, and then each one says like it's a different animal. I think that we are in that phase in agentic commerce. Most of the companies that I have seen, they are highly specialized on one step. So, for example, when we started, we wanted to do only checkout. Like, my background is in payments. I think that we are really good on that. Let's solve that part. So that's what also like Nacuda is solving, what PayOS is providing. Then when we started talking with companies like some that have been in the podcast, they all found like came back with the same problem. It's like, okay, so you tell me that I can check out, but I don't know what products to show my users. And I was like, yeah, but we don't want to do catalog, like maybe there are other companies that can do that. Eventually, when you heard like 7 times the same thing, it's like, okay, I will provide you catalog. Then they came back and said like, well, we don't do cards. Like, we don't want to manage the cart experience. You just tell us what websites, what checkouts. And then they came back and said like, well, but with the catalog, it's not enough because we need to show the end product to the user, like the end price. So we need taxes and shipping. I was like, yeah, but we don't do taxes and shipping. Then, the 7th time that I heard that, I was like, okay, wait a second. If we have to do catalog, if we have to do taxes and shipping, and if we have to do checkouts, okay, let's do the full agentic opinionated piece, and let's go for that problem. So I think that most of the competition are focusing on one layer and then letting the end part choosing. We are going to go like full detail, like end to end, because we saw that it was so early that most of the people needed all the pieces at once.
Yeah, what I need to do is pick this apart and show like the 16 little pieces and which ones you guys are all doing and where the overlap is. I'm sure it's like this, like, it's like, or like, this is probably better as well. It's probably like this, right? Where there's more that doesn't overlap than does overlap.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I do believe a couple of them are really going very horizontal fast, whereas you're kind of still focusing because you're doing product catalog that pulls you into my world, which is, so that's going to pull you out of travel. There is a catalog in travel, but right now you can't do all that. And then, that's part of the piece that probably makes you focus a little bit more. Whereas since they're not doing it, they can be a little more horizontal across categories. Yeah.
Yeah. But something that is important here to notice is like retail is actually like has some similarities that we can pull from my time on traveling, and some other members of the team also had that background. But there are like some special differences even in catalog. For example, for travel, you need like much more real-time infrastructure rather than big data lake of products and inventory, because how often they go like up and down and things like that.
In travel, everything expires, right? And in our world, not everything expires.
Exactly.
There's less stuff that expires than doesn't expire.
Even pricing, it's crazy there. Like, it's not only the inventory goes on and off. It's like, well, I have the flight, but now it's a different price.
Thanks. That helps me kind of think through the different dimensions of what you guys are all building. Because I think it's always interesting. So because you're talking to way more agent builders than I do, what are some of the trends in like the last 60 days that you're hearing? Like, that was helpful around the tax and all that. What else? Like, what are people building? And I don't want any names or anything, but there's been a wave of fashion ones that are coming out now. But I imagine you talked to them 180 days ago or a year ago. What are the things you're talking to? What are people building now that we're going to see come out that are going to blow our minds?
They are starting to think about personalization much more than we could. So until now, even when they talk about themselves, it's a bit sad because they are showing something really, really similar to Amazon. So it's like, well, you have this catalog, but it's in a chat. Nobody asked for a catalog in a chat. Like that's not why people may want to this. They may want more context, so they should be able to provide these things. What I always do is show the example of when I go to buy on retail, like walking into a store. There's like 4 kind of experiences that I have. One is when I go by myself and I just shop around without anybody talking to me. Then there is another one that is when I go and there is someone there that knows all the products and tells me about, like, where are you going? Oh, for hiking. So we have these shoes for hiking. So, like they are able to provide more information about the products and the store itself. Then there is when I go with someone that knows me, that, I say like, oh, I'm going to buy this dart thing for home. And it's like, but Jordi, you don't have time to play. please, like, don't buy this. Like, it's going to go to the garage. And then there's the best experience.
Don't go shopping with them. They're no fun.
Exactly. But they saved me a lot of money, so I'm happy. Um, and then the best experience that I ever had is when I went with someone that knows me, a friend of mine, that used to work in that store. That was the best experience by far. I can pinpoint it. It was in a winery. So, I went there and they were like, okay, Jordi, I know your taste. I used to know all the products here. Let me tell you, you are going to have the best dinner today.
Yeah, it's like an insider's, shortcut to everything going on.
So it's this idea of knowing the both parts, like the store really, really well, but also the consumer really, really well. People are starting to build in this direction, but they are still really focused on, we are going to have the best catalog and we're going to be able to tell you everything about the product. It's like, no. I don't want everything about the product. I can already search that on the internet. I want the best of the product for me. And that's something that, we are trying to empower them to.
Thanks. That's interesting to hear. And I have my framework where I talk about level 3, 4, and 5. There's other levels, but those are the main ones. And then 4 and 5 is where we're starting to get into that. And also, having the agent look at, there's so many variables in the buying part of the equation of, the payment mechanism. Well, I'm saving up for a big trip to Disney, and I really want to juice my miles in the next 6 months. And maybe my agent knows that. So I care a little bit more about that than maybe how fast I get something or, whatever. Or also, speed. And then I have kids in their 20s, and they love buy now, pay later. So that's their priority. And to your point, you mentioned Klarna. They actually did their IPO today. Congrats to them. But so there's a generation that latches on to a buy now, pay later network, and they want to buy these highly considered things, and making sure that's available actually trumps a lot of other things, and that maybe another person would look at. So there's another level of personalization in there, is like, which of these 6 other kind of checking out criteria at the end of the process is most important to you, because you frequently have to pick one or two. You can't have them all. You can't have max miles on the buy now, pay later, fast shipping, and you can't have everything, and your loyalty points, your program counts. You have to kind of like think through the math on all that. And an agent can add tons of value on just that part.
Exactly. And people really care about this. That's what I say, like, our go-to market, like our end consumers are going to be actually the consumer of the product, like whoever is buying. Like, we want to serve that person, but they don't have agents yet. So if we start having, like, we sell them software, they're going to say, what do I want this? It's like, oh no, this is for your agents. And they say, well, but we don't have any agents.
Yeah. But if you get enough agents, you could even help your customers by saying, hey, the last purchase, and he told me it's okay to tell you this, he's really juicing miles right now. So I can go ahead and tell you, you don't have to ask him. That's going to be, when you get to the end of this process, optimize on that.
Exactly. And I think that they are actually going to tell us. They're going to say, like, oh, there is this user that is a simple checkout user. They want to buy these shoes. And we take it from there because we're doing the checkout. So under the hood, like, you should not care if they are using credit card or anything else. Like, we just say, like, okay, yeah, payment process. Like, we make sure that the user is taken care of.
Cool. Let's talk a little bit more about company building, and then we'll go into some like big picture futuristic stuff in our last little piece here. So where are you? So you kind of wandered around a little bit, and you figured out the journey, and now you're like really locked in. How big is the company? When are you launching product? And how much capital have you raised? And if you don't want to answer any of those questions, I totally understand.
It's good. So we started 2.5 years ago going hibernation for burning capital. And we raised a pre-seed of $500,000.
Okay.
Pretty early, I was like, well, I want to solve this problem, and I am not moving. I'm not pivoting to something else. So let's leech here.
And there's a new. I am in the camp of super efficient startups. So I honor. I don't think going and raising 10 million pre-seed is necessarily the smartest thing you can do.
If the market is developed, I'm okay doing that.
It's not the stupidest thing. It depends on how it works out for you, but it has a chance of not working out more than working out.
My employees are really happy with is that I always tell them, like, listen, I'm not going to leave money on the table because I am wrong about the future. So I want to make sure that, like, I am like flexible enough to say, like, guys, I was wrong. We are going to take it. But something that is important, it's this idea of there is not only one advice, but actually, like, like different people make it work differently. But for us, it was pretty clear that giving our strength, like the market is not developed, we cannot pull it ourselves. So when the CEO of Visa goes out and push for agentic commerce, it's not the same as if I just do a podcast and say, hey guys, agentic commerce is coming.
Except for this podcast. This is bigger than the CEO of Visa.
100%. But I didn't have access before. So we went to Hibernation to do all the idea maze. Now we are coming as SimpleCheckout and SimpleCheckout.ai. And we are targeting, like we have a clearly persona of we are the ones that we're serving, that there's like these developers that they want to build this experience. With us, they will have access to catalog, like a curated catalog for whatever they want to show to their users. And we are doing a lot of personalization and recommendation. We try to make it easier for them. That's a wall on itself. Something that is really important is because of how I saw travel industry, I see many players in the ecosystem right now, overall startups, that they really see the other startup as a threat. And I try to tell them, like, guys, I want to serve all your catalog. Listen, if we go out of business, it's not going to be because of you. We want your catalog through us. Like, it's no problem. Or we want our catalog through you. Like, that's not the big thing. We are 3 engineers. And we have quite a lot of inbound, so we may have some news soon about new fundraising. And we really feel like now it's the moment to accelerate.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's a lot of people call me and say, are you guys doing payments? And I'm like, no, sorry. And then I tell them to call you. So hopefully that's helped out.
Something that's important here is I want more competition. So I want more people doing it because they always say, like, but what's the secret sauce? And I am pretty open with everything that we do and how we build it. The secret sauce is that it sucks. Like, it's a lot of work. So if you can serve better consumers, like, I'm more than happy to, bring your ideas to the marketplace, because agentic commerce is going to be like pretty big. So we need as much talent as possible. And if you want to do it in a company that already has like some traction, call us, because we are hiring there too.
Yeah. And then because of your background, and then there's a fair number. So I've mentioned some of the companies that I kind of view are on one side of the fence. They're not really into crypto and blockchain. There's a lot that are doing stable coins and a lot of things kind of, or using blockchain in some way. Is your solution kind of like underneath the hood, and I don't imagine the consumer will be exposed to this in any way, and probably not the agent builder and not the merchant, but under the hood, are you leveraging some of the blockchain technologies to achieve some of the things?
Yes. So for example, with the Lightning Network, it works out of the box with the stable coins too. But the reality is that most of the people right now are trying to choose a winner. So for example, they say, I like crypto and Solana is the best, and Solana Foundation, I don't know what, let's go with them. Or I am a Coinbase fan. Our take here,
I would say they're religious about it. They're like, Solana's the best, and I'll punch you in the nose if you disagree. I'm like, well, I don't care, so I'm not going to get in a fight.
And it's crazy for me because they spend all their time educating their customer. And it's not educating, it's telling them why they are wrong. So the customer is educated enough. Like, they actually know what they want. And then they spend a lot of time saying, no, but you don't want to use your credit card. It's like, no, but I like the miles. I want the points. It's like, no, but that's wrong. Like this, you want final settlement. I don't care about that.
But you want DeFi. I'm like,
Yeah, they insist a lot on that. So for us, we don't pick winners. And actually, something that was curious for me that someone from Visa told us was that, okay, like this pitch looks really different, because usually I went them and I told them, like, I have good news. You're going to make more money than ever. Like, e-commerce is going to explode. There are going to be more transactions than ever. That's pretty good for Visa. And they were like, wow, this is new. Like, most of the people come to tell us, well, if you don't partner, you're a dinosaur, you're dying. I was like, no. Everyone is going to grow like quite a lot. So we just want to be able to, like, when something goes good, my company gets better, not worse.
So you're agnostic. If someone wants to pay with Bitcoin, you'll figure that out.
Yeah. Why wouldn't I?
Yep.
Like, I am here for serving them.
Yeah. Okay. What's your vision for the company? Do you see this being, kind of something that tucks in with another company, or like a really big company at the end of the day? What are you going to take this public? I've done that. I wouldn't recommend it, but at some point you get big enough, you have to.
I think that at the end of the day, that's what we are going to aim to, because I think that we are in a really special moment. So if you look into payments over the internet right now, all the companies have something in common, that is they are merchant focused. So the only one that needed programmatic payments was the merchant. The merchant wanted to be sleeping, wake up, and it's like, well, how were my sales? However, there was never programmatic payments for the customer side, because the customer never wanted to wake up and say, well, where did I spend money? Like, machines were not smart enough to, like, need software on the client side. So if you look into agentic commerce, for example, many people say like, oh, do you know who is really well positioned for this? Shopify. And they are. Do you know who is really well positioned for this? Amazon or Stripe. And they are. But they want to sell you things from their merchants, because at the end of the day, they are a merchant focused company. We want to be the first one. It's like, well, now it's a good opportunity to say, like, no, we want to be customer focused. Like, we want you to get the thing that you want from any store using any payment method, because we don't have any priorities on sell from our merchants. So I think that it's
So you're agnostic on the payment side and the merchant side.
exactly. I think that we are the only ones, or it's going to be a new startup. It may not be us, like if we fail, because it's a really hard endeavor. So it's not like I just say it and it happens. But that's what we aim to, because for first time, I think that, wow, this is an incredible opportunity that did not happen before.
Cool. And you mentioned you've raised a little pre-seed. You may be doing a seed here soon. We'll keep a close eye on that. Keep us updated. And then, how big is the team? I imagine it's mostly on the engineering side yet. It doesn't make sense to really scale up, go to market until you're going to put the pedal to the metal a little bit.
Exactly. So we are like 3 engineers full time now, and there is a couple of contractors that come and go depending on what we need.
That's like the equivalent of 5 years ago, 30 engineers, which is crazy. Today the teams punch way above their weight. So even though you're solving hard problems, it lets you focus on the meat of the problem and not the ancillary junk.
And something that I am pretty proud of is like I have a really good network of engineers. After like I have worked many years, and I have a podcast on AI agents. I am really active on conferences and things like that. This is an incredible like advantage, because I can choose like the best engineer for the task. And nowadays with AI, we are really like changing the way we work. Like we are like early adopters. That means that we do a lot of exploration. So there is a lot of work that we do and say like, well, you know what, didn't work. But it also allows us to, like when we hit a home run, we are able to, structure the company. So really little amount of people are able to do what before you needed like tens of people to develop. And this is incredible, because something that did not change is that execution and velocity in the right direction is the thing that matters the most when building a startup.
Cool. I like your energy. So a couple like thinking into the future, and I'm kind of preaching to the choir, but we'll see what the choir has to say about this. I'm sure you saw the PayPal CEO said by 2030 that 25% of transactions will be on e-commerce will be agentic. Do you agree with that? Do you think that's low, high, perfect?
I think that it may be on the lower end, but I don't think that we will get to half of it. Something that it was amazing for me was
32%.
Yeah, I think that's going to be more
in 2030. We're going to have a follow up, and we'll see how it goes.
I think it's going to be more on the 30th%.
Okay, 30%. All right, I'm putting you down for 30. We're going to do a pool.
Yes, we'll see about that goes, which is good, because actually I may have some input on that. So I need my company to do really well, because I am losing a bet with
you want to be you want 10% of that. You want to be 10 of the 30, which is actually 33%.
Something that was curious for me was in May they had the dev days of PayPal, and then the company was showing what they do, and there was a lot of talks about agentic commerce. So they were showing agentic toolkit, this and that, and then the CEO comes out on stage and says like, well, we're going to do agentic, blah blah blah, and then someone from the public, like developers of PayPal for the last like 25 years, they say like, sorry, like where does the web fit in all this that you are telling us? Because like I put the PayPal button in websites. Like that's what I have been doing for 25 years. What happens here? And then he said something like, when I see my kids interact with the internet, they don't use websites that much. They go to TikTok and things like that. So I don't know if in 5 years it's going to be like web. That was actually like his prediction. And I think that he's wrong here. Like in 5 years, we're going to have web. But something that was incredible for me was the disconnection between, where the company is going, and I think that they are doing the right step, and where the community or, like the PayPal developers were. They were like, we put buttons in websites. What the hell are you telling us about Agentic?
Anything new with our exciting website buttons? And they're like, no. We have a rounded button coming out next year.
But even with developers, I see many people that they have a hard time because things are going to change a lot and it's going to be for the better. But on this direction, even what you mentioned before about what I expect companies to do in the near future, and many times when we are talking with people and we show, it's like, oh, this is great. So we can show a grid of catalog. It's like, guys, don't do that. Like we already have a lot of this. Like for first time, generative media is getting cheap enough that I can see the products, all me wearing them. Like I want to be the model in all the things. And I don't want the model saying like, oh, this is how the shoes look on you. I want the model saying like, these are the shoes that look on you with these pants that you already own. So I am able to do all these things. But for developers, it's still hard. It's a big shift. There's a lot of things that are moving pieces and many things that don't work today that they are going to work in the next like 12, 18, 24 months. But it's hard to project how things will go. But I want more and more of these crazy things of, I want personalization. So when you see things like generative media today, everyone is saying like, you are going to watch movies generated on the fly, blah, blah, blah. How many movies do you watch per year? Like it's not that important. However, how many items do you see when browsing the web? It would be great if all those images are actually, they are not ads. Like the ad industry already were generating ads in real time. Now we are going to generate like things like thumbnails in real time. So I want to see more and more of that. But when you talk with developers, even this sounds crazy. Like this, like what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, why do you need real time? Yeah, I got it. Well, we're at the top of our time here, and I want to be very conscious. I know you've got a big company to go build. So last thoughts. You have a lot of cool thought leadership, more on what I would call the nerdy side, which is my people. But but for those that want to go even deeper on, you mentioned you have a podcast around building AI agents, and where can people find you? And the website for your company is SimpleCheckout. But if they want Jordi's thought leadership, do you have a Substack or something, or where can people track what you're up to there?
So I have a Substack called Positive Blue, like the word positive and the color blue. The story is that I used to have all blue hair, so like this stack from that from that era. Then
that was your crypto phase.
And that was before everything. Like it was.
That was
before,
your punk rock phase. Got it.
Yeah. Now blue hair is like already like some community took it. This was like before any community took blue hair. It was like in early 2010 or so. Yeah. And then on SimpleCheckout.ai, they will find all the information about our company. And we're going to post more and more leadership thoughts on that blog post, because I think that there's a lot of people that could benefit on, they are jumping now into agentic commerce and they don't know exactly how payments work or why they are needed. What is PCI compliant? Like when you told developers this, they freak out. They are really surprised when they see like, I cannot take a credit card of a user and spend it anywhere. Like, but Stripe kind of does that. It's like, no, they match it only for you. You are the merchant of record. And it's like, wait, what is merchant of record? So, like they would benefit a lot of this. And a lot of things that are more about what we are seeing, like generative media, how the travel industry patterns may apply. So they will find all these at SimpleCheckout.ai. Awesome.
Well, congrats on possibly fundraising. That's exciting. And building, now you've got your direction, you're locked in. It's going to be fun to watch what you guys build. We'll stay in touch. If you have news, keep us posted. We'll either put it on the Substack or have you back on in a while to get an update on how things are going. But thanks for taking the time. I know you've been really busy building, so we really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Scott. I enjoyed this a lot. Looking forward for the next one.
Follow, rate, and share to stay up to date with Retailgentic. your guide to the future of AI shopping agents.